Every painting is a journey from big shapes to little details, but sometimes cutting back on those details leads to a stronger picture. I've always liked landlocked boats like this one here, the sailboat. I like them because it suggests a forgotten dream. Someone had this idea of a sailboat that they've now cast aside, and I'm going to try to paint this in gouache. In this video, I'll take you through the making of this little painting, answer your questions, and at the end, I'll come back around to the idea of composition, meaning, and simplicity. I'm using an ordinary number 2 pencil on this casein primed watercolor paper. You don't have to use casein. Casein is a milk-based paint. You could use a colored gesso or a matte acrylic. I just want a paint that won't reactivate when I hit it with wet washes later. If this is the first time you visited my YouTube channel, welcome. Yes, I'm the same guy that did the Dinotopia books. But what I usually do here is I paint a small picture in a sketchbook, usually on location and usually in gouache. This time I'm on a little island on the Maine seacoast called Little Cranberry Island. And the mosquitoes are pretty bad right now. Now let's take a question. Doodlin asks, the perspective on boats can be really tricky. Are there any techniques you use for getting them right? Well, this one is pretty straightforward because it's straight on, so all I have to do is just get that line of symmetry and make sure it's the same on both sides. It appears more foreshortened in the photo than it does in the drawing because the camera is not quite as high up as my eyes.
I was wondering how you edit your videos. Some audio is added afterwards and not from your original painting location.
Catherine, you're right. Most of the voiceover is done in post. I do it during the edit in iMovie because I want to reconstruct my thought process. It's hard to talk and paint at the same time. So what I need to do next is mix some color. Astrid asks if I use complementary colors to mute them, and the answer is yes. The color I'm using now is a orange that's been grayed down with a blue. Now, a few of you asked for specifically which colors I'm using.
I was wondering on how should I choose my limited palette. Like, I like to stick to a limited palette, but sometimes I find it hard to choose the colors that I want to use for a certain painting.
Well, good for you, Sarah. I'm glad you mentioned limited palettes, and I'm glad you said it's hard to choose because some people just bring every color every time. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm not a palette maximalist. In fact, the cynic in me says the more colors on the list, the more likely the teacher has a sponsorship deal. But you know me, I tend to pick 6 or 8 colors more or less at random to see how they work together. And you could paint anything in this scene with fewer colors than this. You see the osprey up there? Because they fish, don't they?
How do you achieve soft edges with gouache and manage soft transitions?
Ezra, the main way that I keep areas soft is by keeping them wet together. I'll show you. You may have noticed that the first passages I laid down were fairly wet, the light areas for the pathways alongside the boat. And then right after that I used a dryer stroke to dry brush the grasses next to the pathway. So in addition to thinking about value and saturation or chroma and hue, you're also thinking about the wetness versus dryness and the thickness of the paint. I also want to get that gravel in the foreground. So to do that, I'm going to use a little splatter.
My question deals with what's your approach to opacity, and how do you know when something is cool to be left translucent or kind of opaque, and when do you think about taking things to full opacity?
Well, Chad, normally if you watch some of my videos, you know I tend to start more transparently like watercolor and then build the opaques as I go. If you watch to the end, you'll see I'm going to basically do that in this one too. Getting a lot of colors mixed together here to try to get some partial mixtures where I have an incompletely mixed set of colors so that the brushstroke goes down with different colors on the stroke. And in fact, there's a blob of orange on the underside of the brush. Now, a few of you wanted to know whether I preferred sunny or cloudy days for painting outdoors. I really have to say, I like whatever hand I'm dealt. If it's sunny, great! I get those strong light and shadow patterns. That kind of lighting is really nice for warm and cool colors, making them come alive. But if it's cloudy, that's great too. Overcast light is softer and more even, and I can see the true colors without the distraction of harsh shadows. It's perfect for painting complicated scenes where you want everything to hold together tonally. What can be difficult is when it switches back and forth from sunny to cloudy, like on a partly cloudy day, in which case you can paint both versions of the scene. So this time I'm painting the lighter tones first, I'm painting in the darks next. With this homemade sketch easel, I can keep my colors as close as possible to the painting so that I can make the mixtures and place them on the painting without reaching too far. Sergio Silva has a good question about getting the right level of illumination on the painting and the palette so that it looks right when you get home. And this is related to the idea of overcast versus direct sunlight, because under these conditions with overcast light, I can get good soft light over my works. In the upper right hand corner is a link to a video about setting up diffusers when you're in conditions of direct sunlight. Next up, we've got a question from Andrew, who is 24 years old.
When you were 24, what one piece of advice you would have wanted to receive about making it as an artist?
Wow, that's a good one. If I could give my 24-year-old self advice, I'd say, maintain your independence of vision and work for yourself. But honestly, I didn't need that advice back then. I was already on a solid path. I had worked as a background painter for Ralph Bakshi's Renegade Animation Studio. I had published my first book, and I was about to turn down a job from Walt Disney Company. I was about to get married, move east, and start a freelance illustration career. I was on a good path, but I was still essentially broke. But I was learning a lot, and I would have said to my older self, yeah, I'm already doing what you're saying. But what would have caught my attention at age 24 was a glimpse into how dramatically the world would change for artists over the next 40 years because of digital technology. Here's the good news I'd share with myself if my 24-year-old self was willing to hear it. You will be able to reach your audience directly. No need for approval from art directors, critics, galleries, or gatekeepers. People from all around the world will discover your work, buy it, and support you. You won't have to sell out to succeed. If you stay true, the rest will follow. But here is the harder truth, and I don't think I would want to hear this at all at that age. Assuming the juice keeps flowing and we stay connected by computers, technical skill in drawing and painting won't be enough to set you apart, because anyone will be able to push a button and generate an impressive image instantly and share it widely. We're only beginning to grasp the implications of that innovation. And it's not just technology. There are strange times ahead, politically, economically, environmentally. I believe people will still need art as much as they need food. But who makes that art and how it reaches the public is an open question. Maybe we'll need to get better at telling stories around campfires, who knows? Whatever comes, don't give in to fear, greed, or bitterness. Keep your curiosity, stay enthusiastic, and always be ready to pivot. Keep yourself outside the data set. Move away from the average. Be the best at what you do best. Maintain your independence of vision.
How and why did you choose this composition?
That boat is the central motif, the blue boat in the gray landscape, because it has a discordant fish-out-of-water quality. And this leads to a series of questions about how I decide on a composition, What's my vision early on? How I balance various elements and whether I should include humans in the scene. To me, a painting should pose a question or a series of questions. In this case, I wondered, what did this boat mean to the person or the people who used to sail it? So I thought I'd ask my friend Clayton, who lives down the street. He's a neighbor of the guy who owned this boat.
For 30 or 40 years during the summer, these boats were the mainstay of sailing programs for kids. Teaching methods and time allotted for summer vacations have made them obsolete for their original purpose, but the value of sailing remains. A friend once told me how, when he got antsy in the boat, his grandmother taught him to enjoy sailing. She explained how to listen to the sound of the water rushing down the hull, to appreciate the rolling motion of the boat itself, the curve of the sails, the constantly changing patterns on the surface of the sea. In short, she taught him how to slow down, decompress, and appreciate a moment for the moment it is, one of life's most valuable lessons.
Thank you, Clayton. That's wonderfully profound, and it's exactly why we paint outdoors, of course, to slow down, to notice things, to appreciate the passage of time. Now, if only I can bring out that meaning in the composition. I don't think of composition as just moving shapes or colors around. For me, composition is about meaning and how to deliver it. It has to say something. Just balancing elements against other elements doesn't matter much unless there's an idea driving it. So you do think about these elements, but you have to think about what you want to say with the picture. In this case, the boat means something. It's a symbol that reminds me of Clayton's story. The boat is something obsolete, something cast aside. But what happened to the grandmother's wisdom about the value of sailing? Is that wisdom lost, or is it still alive in the world? Is it still out there in some other form? Maybe that's what the birds on the wire stand for. I'll put the poles in on the right, and I'll add some birds on the wires. I'm keeping in mind what Norman Rockwell said. Nothing should ever be shown in a picture which does not contribute directly to the telling of the story. That means I'll knock back those lobster pots, simplify the grasses, the trees, and the sky. What really matters here is the boat, the wire, and that distant osprey nest. To me, those things hint at an idea. A dead sailboat cast aside on shore, but a living flock of birds. Well, I'm going in because the mosquitoes are getting bad, but thanks for your comments and your questions. Sorry I didn't get to all of them. Well, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to share it with your friends. You can subscribe to this channel or check out my website. Here's a related video, and here's a playlist with more like this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.